Progressive presents an interview with your upstairs neighbor.
Hey, it's Rick from upstairs. Yeah, I take it seriously. When I play R&B at 1 a.m, that's me saying, hey, I'm here for you. And I enjoy repetitive bass lines. I only use expired batteries in my smoke detectors. Nice, right? Yeah, upstairs neighbors help people forget their troubles. Give them something else to focus on. Ooh, want to see how high I can jump?
Progressive can't save you from your upstairs neighbor.
No, wait, let me try again.
But we can save you money when you bundle renters and auto insurance with us. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company, affiliates, and other insurers. Bundle discount not available in all states or situations.
Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Inside Line Formula One podcast. Guys, the big news this week. So both Ferrari and Mercedes have refused to supply power units to Mclaren from 2018 onwards.
And of course, this is alleged by Zach Brown, so it's not really confirmed by Ferrari and Mercedes themselves. But honestly, what were McLaren thinking when they approached Ferrari and Mercedes for their power units? So
they were thinking no Honda, obviously.
But Ferrari and Mercedes refused Red Bull Racing, so why on earth would they agree to supply it to McLaren?
Yes, and it doesn't make sporting sense. But for the business of Formula One, this manufacturer cartel, it really needs to stop. And I think this is Formula One's true power struggle, or in Red Bull Racing and McLaren's case, power unit struggle.
So there is a ruling that ensures that no team on the grid is left without a power unit ever. But anyway, McLaren are hoping that Honda deliver, but there's nothing new in that. They've been hoping this for the last 3 odd seasons. And as for Renault, they actually don't mind supplying their units, just that they're not sure if their them supplying to a fourth team could add to reliability issues for them, since McLaren would be the fourth Renault power team on the grid.
That's fair actually, Kunal, and I think the worst part of this power struggle is that Ferrari and Mercedes aren't interested in hiring Alonso. They've said that. And by not supplying power units to McLaren, they're not helping McLaren retain Alonso either.
Oh man.
So basically, they're responsible for kicking Alonso out of Formula One.
Single, or in this case, dual-handedly.
And it's just so unfortunate. I mean, I wish they'd have seen this whole power struggle thing coming when they wrote down these highly complicated power unit regulations.
Talking of regulations, for 2020, they're seeking new engine regulations, or even could be 2021. And there's talks that Audi, BMW, and a few other car manufacturers have been attending these technical meetings. But dear Formula One, please ensure that very simple and easy to make competitive engine regulations are written down.
Yes, and in fact, for the future, it seems that Formula One is seeking to reduce the weight of engines further. So basically, after the size 0 in design, we're now talking about reducing weight. Kunal, obviously, Formula One cars are going the modelling way. This is Lewis Hamilton's influence at play.
And independent teams such as Red Bull Racing and McLaren are at such a disadvantage with such kind of current regulations that we have. And it's not that they can't afford competitive engines, it's just that nobody is going to be selling one to them. And basically, Ferrari and Mercedes are controlling which teams will be competitive in Formula One.
McLaren is now suffering from the Red Bull Racing problem, which is better than the McLaren problem, for sure.
Honda is expected to have a Spec 4 engine coming up pretty soon. I don't know what it will do, and more like actually I don't care either. But look at Alonso's fortunes in the British Grand Prix. He put on a new power unit, he took all those grid penalties, and he still clocked a DNF. How strange is that?
Very strange. So I saw the Cars 3 garage at the British Grand Prix, and when the cars didn't come out to race on track, I almost wondered if they were powered by Honda as well. Guys, obviously I'm joking.
But this was a very good integration with Disney to attract younger audiences.
And Formula One announced a partnership with Snapchat last week. And promptly, Formula One's bad boy, our favorite rebel, Lewis Hamilton, so he went and used Instagram Live while he was on the podium.
I wonder if this will be the new regulation that Formula One will introduce in time to come. teams and drivers to only use Snapchat for all social media stories.
I think we should all join Snapchat, Kunal.
But this is yet another effort by Formula One to reach out to younger audiences. It also establishes Snapchat as the tool and medium to go to if you want to attract the younger millennials.
That's true, actually. I never thought of it that way. The F1 Live London event was, in fact, Formula One's best effort yet. And I always wondered what Formula One would be if they brought all their marketing might together. And yes, the results in London were out there for all of us to see, like marvelous stuff.
Yes, it was out there for 100,000 fans to see on a weekday in London, on the streets, watching Formula One cars revving up and down and performing donuts. Like dreamy stuff for me, to be honest.
I was looking at Kimi Raikkonen walking up to fans and shaking hands. I was like, oh my God, I wish I was in London. But obviously, Lewis Hamilton skipping the event was the big news. At least still he went and won the British Grand Prix on Sunday.
And honestly, I wish Lewis Hamilton was there. He is the absolute fan favorite. He is the local hero. And all he needed to do was take the tube and show up at the show.
Especially if 19 out of 20 drivers could do that, show up. Kunal, I am surprised that Mercedes and Formula One could not control his attendance. Even more so because this is the first such event ever.
Yes, and Hamilton's disappearing act aside, I am eager to know where the next F1 Live event is going to be held. So they made fans taste blood, literally so, or rubber in this case. They better serve us more doses in the months to actually come, and that too all around the world.
I totally don't mind planning my next holiday around the next F1 Live event. Just at this time, I hope that they give fans like us enough notice to book those tickets and land up.
So the business of F1 Live events, that's of course where my interest also lies. I'm really keen to know who funded the live event in London. Was it the local organizers or was it Formula One? And who will actually fund such future events as well? Because let me tell you, it is expensive to run a show car, especially for the midfield teams who have to rent engines. And let me tell you this. So when Force India ties up with Mercedes, the contract means that at all Grand Prix racing events and official testing events, there will be engines provided. But show car running events are not a part of the contract usually.
That's interesting.
And it'll be curious to know who fits those bills going forward as well. Because while there is visibility that's been created for the midfield teams, I don't know if they can afford them in their budget. And I'm saying this from my Force India days. So I'm hoping that such questions get answered in the time to come so that we can actually plan the next event sooner.
Kunal, damn interesting. And next time, I also hope that Formula One blocks Lewis Hamilton's calendar much in advance. Maybe they should invite all his celebrity friends over,
And social media actually wondered what was important that weekend. 100,000 fans coming to watch you on a weekday for free, or 140,000 fans who paid a fortune to see you go racing. So to me, the settings are a little different. The F1 Live event was a promotional event. It was for the sport, and there were no championship earnings involved, nor in terms of money. Neither in terms of money nor in terms of points. So a racing driver who landed up there was absolutely selfless to attend. It was for a cause. It was for the sport. Whereas at a Grand Prix racing weekend like the British Grand Prix, a driver is contracted and he's actually paid to attend and go racing. So this is also where he picks up championship points. So this is more for the driver and then the team. And the other one is more for the fans and for the sport. And we all know which driver chose what.
It's very interesting how Max Verstappen put it. So he said that if he had missed an F1 Live event in his country, his fans would have shot him down. I guess the British fans are quite tolerant.
I also guess that maturity doesn't necessarily come with age. Okay, enough of the wheeled attacks.
But yes, a brilliant drive by Lewis Hamilton on the weekend. He clinched his 5th British Grand Prix victory and he also scored the Grand Slam. Like, very cool.
Yes, and he needed Vettel to hit some bad luck, and boy, Vettel did hit some bad luck. So the World's Drivers' Championship is down to a single exciting point. And although for Vettel, this is how I like to summarize his last racing week, especially since we had back-to-back races in Austria and Silverstone. So in Austria, he wanted an extra lap to beat Bottas. And I wonder if in Silverstone he hoped for a lap less, because that would have given him a podium finish.
So close so far. Lewis Hamilton dedicated his victory to Billy Mongo, and that was a very nice gesture.
Yes, it was delightful to see Billy in the Mercedes garage, and I'm sure this was a dream that came true for him as well.
And here's another interesting story doing the rounds. So, Lewis and Sebastian, they both yet to confirm their futures at their respective teams. Kunal, do you think they're thinking of a possible swap?
I don't know, and that would be a very interesting but a very rare swap that would have happened in Formula One since many, many years.
Crazy coup that would be.
So Lewis Hamilton has also released his own emoji pack. It's called the Hamoji. And basically this means that Alonso beat the rest of the drivers in this aspect too.
I'm just wondering if Kimi Raikkonen released his own emoji pack, it would basically be the same emotion, like for 10 different emotions.
Wow.
Anyway, given Alonso's McLaren stint, I think he's had more emoji moments on and off track than any other driver. So clearly it was very easy for him to pull it off.
So I was reading a post the other day that wondered how strong a World Endurance Championship team would be if Alonso, Raikkonen and Button joined forces and raced. And of course it was wishful thinking, but let's remember that each of these three drivers, or at least one of these three drivers, is retired, and the other two could pretty much be on their way out of Formula One as well. And honestly, after seeing the interest Alonso generated in the Indy 500, I am totally for drivers wanting to drive across other racing series.
Talking of which, so Sebastian Ogier, the leader of the World Rally Championship, so he tested a Red Bull racing car just for fun. And I think the last WRC driver who made it to Formula One was Kimi Raikkonen. Obviously, I had to bring up the Kimi Raikkonen connection.
If Sebastian Ogier makes it to Formula One, we'll be back to having a grid with two Sebastians. I think that the last time this happened was when there was a Sebastian Buemi and a Sebastian Vettel as well. So Sebastian being destined for Formula One. And on that note of Button, he finally made it to the podium of the British Grand Prix after 17 years of trying.
Poor guy. I loved how he booted out Owen Wilson from the podium interviews. I think Formula One should really stick to the pros.
Or they could just hire us to do those interviews.
Hey, we are pros.
We promise to bring out more than a few jokes while on the podium, because right now it's all very corporate PR talk. I like to thank the team and the guys in Woking and a guy's here and a guy's there. Okay, not Woking, it's usually Brackley, but anyway, the British Grand Prix for me was fun. It was a race where every other position but the lead was up for grabs and everyone was racing for.
The bad luck of the RB13, we'd spoken about it extensively in our last podcast. So that changed hands from Verstappen to Ricciardo. And Kunal, though, it was great to see Ricciardo climb up the ladder and he finally finished 5th. Pretty much every time the cameras focused on him, he was busy overtaking someone or the other.
Driver of the day, totally deserved.
Totally.
Yes, and bad luck also continued for Kimi Raikkonen. I don't know if and how we're going to be able to break that jinx for him. And Raikkonen missed out on P2 despite his best race performance of the season. In fact, his luck was so bad at the British Grand Prix that Ferrari struggled to even put the correct message on his pit board.
Poor guy. But the British Grand Prix was proof that Ferrari treats their drivers equally. So same lap, same corner, same tyre, and the same disaster. Like, how did they pull that off?
And had Hamilton actually not crossed the line to end Ocon's race, who he had actually lapped, there could have been a chance that Ocon would have overtaken Vettel, which would have meant that Vettel would have gone from a 20 points lead to a points deficit in Hungary. Can you imagine?
But that 1 point difference as we near the middle of the season, it just shows how close things are this season.
Oh yes, evenly matched drivers in just about evenly matched cars.
Interestingly, for his contract renewal, Vettel has asked that Raikkonen should be his teammate for next year. And I really hope this happens.
Kimi Raikkonen has said that his future is in Ferrari's hands. Though given his popularity, I think Raikkonen's future should be in the hands of his fans.
I think the world knows who I would vote for. Definitely all the listeners of this podcast.
So, by the way, Nico Rosberg has shot down rumors of him joining Ferrari as a comeback to Formula One. So, I'm not sure if that's smart or not. But what's certainly not smart was that Rosberg almost lost his driver's championship trophy recently.
So this basically means that Nico Rosberg has lost the World Drivers' Championship trophy 3 times. Twice to Lewis Hamilton and then once all by himself. By the way, Nico Rosberg is also following in Hamilton's footsteps at Wimbledon. It seems that he landed up without socks and I think they denied him entry. Luckily, he had a pair handy and, things were okay.
2070's unlucky boy Max Verstappen had a phenomenal race. He showed the world why Red Bull Racing wouldn't trade him for even 100 million euros. I just loved his opening laps, especially the fight with Sebastian Vettel.
And I really think that Vettel and Verstappen should always be in different teams because that's the only way that their battle is going to be as much fun. I'd never want that Team Orders comes in and ruins this rivalry and our fun, obviously.
Sebastian Vettel also tested the FIA's shield concept, basically the cockpit protection device, and he didn't seem to enjoy it too much. He said he walked out feeling giddy because of variety of reasons. But the news that's also come in just as we entered the studio for this week's episode, as the FIA has confirmed the use of the halo from the 2018 season onward. So we're not going to react to it because we know that the FIA absolutely knows what needs to be done for driver safety, and we'll leave this in their hands. They're better at this than they are better at their stewarding, to be honest.
That's true. Sebastian Vettel has also asked for a rethink of the jump start rules. Kunal, I think this is just because he knows that he cannot match the superhuman reflexes of Bottas, like we saw last time.
In fact, this could also be that one rule that he probably can never break, which is why he's asked to mend them maybe. And the one driver we're yet to speak about, which you just mentioned, was Valtteri Bottas, or Mr. Minimal Talking.
Typically Finn.
He went from P9 to P2 in a brilliant drive.
Yes, and we've called that a career-defining drive, I agree. It's a contract-attracting drive as well. I'm really glad that Toro Wolff has said that extending Bottas' contract is a no-brainer.
So the British Grand Prix showed us how bad luck in one race can make an impact on the Drivers' Championship. Now imagine this, in Hungary, if Hamilton and Vettel have issues or they take each other out or they individually crash out and Bottas wins, he will go into the summer break leading the Drivers' Championship.
That's a very interesting, tantalizing thought. So talking about leading, Kubica seems to be leading the list of drivers who could replace Palmer at Renault. And there were also rumors about Carlos Sainz joining Renault. And now Kubica will test the 2017 Renault F1 car in Hungary a day after the race. And if all goes well and if all powers are pleased, he could get into the Renault cockpit instead of Palmer as early as Spa. So basically after the summer break.
Wow, that's an interesting piece of news.
Can't wait. That's crazy.
So Palmer basically is one of those rare drivers who could arrive at Spa and not be happy about being in a Spa. Okay, bad attempt at a good joke, I guess, but I wish Kubica got a free practice session on the Friday. At least that way it would get televised, because I can tell you that Kubica's comeback will attract a lot of attention as well.
It also seems that Renault is keen to put a comeback driver into the car rather than new talent, because there's talk that Sebastian Buemi could also make a comeback. And suddenly we might have 3 Sebastians on the grid. And above all of that, Kunal, I loved how Renault put a 79-year-old racing rally car driver in the Renault. And she just happened to be a woman, obviously. And such an interesting story.
Yes, it was a lovely story. I loved the content that they put around this story as well.
It seems that they're learning a thing or two from Red Bull Racing, no?
Yeah. And the last few stories of the week before we wrap up this episode. So, the Sergio Perez and the Esteban Ocon war has actually gone to the dogs. Esteban Ocon has had to block Perez's fan on social media for abusing him. Behave yourself, guys.
Yeah, that's very shameful. And Perez is not willing to commit to Force India for 2018 yet. And I think this is yet another season where he hopes a big drive will come his way. Will it be Ferrari? Let's watch.
In my view, it can actually only be a Ferrari because we know Mercedes is, calling it a no-brainer to renew Bottas's contract. So unless a Hamilton does retire, which he's been hinting at, I don't think Mercedes is going to be interested in Perez. And we know how his relationship with Mclaren ended. And let's remember, he actually said no to Renault last season as well. So we'll know in 2018 if that was a wise decision or not.
Yeah. And it's also been the week of the Kvyat torpedo again. So after his antics in Austria, Danny Kvyat was again at it in Silverstone. Only this time he torpedoed his sister Toro Rosso racing car, which is Carlos Sainz's car. And I think Danny Kvyat is in a pretty delicate place right now. So he's had penalty points in race penalties. He seems to be doing everything he can to be demoted, basically replaced soon.
Like we said in the previous episode, Daniel Ricciardo is the only happy Red Bull Racing driver at the moment. Yes. Although that must have changed for Max after a cool P4 in the British Grand Prix last weekend.
And finally, there's one unhappy former world champion, and that's Jacques Villeneuve. So apparently, this is damn funny, Kunal. He's been barred from entering the motorhome of Williams. And this is because of his negative comments about Lance Stroll. I can't stop laughing.
I'm sure Jax has now realized that first it was Stroll's money that did the talking and now it is Stroll's speed. So let's hope that Stroll keeps proving Villeneuve wrong as the season progresses. On that note, thank you so much for tuning in, ladies and gentlemen. Do remember to subscribe to us on iTunes and on Audio Boom for your weekly dose of Formula One humor. And we will see you in the week of the Hungarian Grand Prix. Thank you.
Wendy's Baconator is the ultimate bacon cheeseburger that puts all other cheeseburgers to cheeseburger's shame. And now we're bringing that same big bacon energy to shake up and wake up your breakfast with the Breakfast Baconator. Stacked with the fresh cracked egg, sausage, cheese, and bacon. And right now, you can get a free Breakfast Baconator with purchase in the Wendy's app. So get to Wendy's and always be baconating. We got you.
Offer available at participating U.S. Wendy's for a limited time during breakfast hours only. Offer must be redeemed via the app. Account registration required.